So what's the h'tשכ to the chaylas ava, to the love sickness as he described? So he said, in general state of mitzvahs, as the pasuk says, support me with food and drink and surround me with fragrant apples. As he explained, that's state of mitzvahs and shuvah. So I say, since everything said Yishtalshus descends all the way down in Chinas Chelis Avanal, from this lofty level of Chelis Ava, described of the Alter Rebbe, the ultimate, which is the Shad HaNun. You alone, Yishtalshus Lamata Yosef Chinas Amachlo, Shimakara Chelis. So that descends in a lower plane to Machalo, which is the source of all illness. We're speaking here also now Baruch Nistra. Baruch Nistra illnesses which are not in Kedusha. There's many levels of illness. Now, what comes next, which is the quotations from Medrash and Gemara, both Bavli and Yerushalmi, it's not as I thought in one description following the other. He just culls it from these various sources, and he puts it in his order. In the order how this Baruch is, but it's not the way it appears in the Gemara necessarily. And not all these descriptions appear in one place either. It's from three sources. Three sources of what? Defining what is chayli, this pasuk. Veheisir Hashem will remove from you all sickness. What is the sickness? The Gemara discusses there that or in all three places, that 9 out of 10 people die from ayin hara. 1 in 10 dies from sickness. Interesting Gemara thinks that it shall me that 9 in 10 die from the wind, and 1 from the illness. And what questions that, and what it concludes, the wind blowing on the illness. The spread, in other words, some of the illness. Whatever the explanations are, scientifically, I'm sure they're fascinating. Akoponim, it doesn't bring all of those opinions. They don't deal with what chayli is. Yeah, they actually talk about what is chayli. He mentions some of them. So the first one is Yetzer Hara. Chayli is a Yetzer Hara. The first one he brings. Behind the Mashin is Moker. What does it mean, Yetzer Hara? Not outright sin, but he allows place, Allah still the Yetzer Hara. He's still in the world of Kedusha, but he's admitting the Yetzer Hara. Meaning, even though the beginning of the Yetzer Hara is enticement and seduction. His boyfriend today tells him to do this, and tomorrow he tells him to do that, and the conclusion is till he tells him to go and sit Avodah Zarah. That's the whole quote, right? So he tells him to do kach, to do so, do this. This, that the Rabbi explained, the Yetzer Hara's first entry is not do Avodah Zarah. The Jew is not going to listen. Do this, do what you're doing in Kedusha. But what? Because he allows the Yetzer Hara in, we explained yesterday, that means do it, but do it for an agenda that may also gain. By the way, who's the me? The me is the conscious self. It's not some creature lodged in the heart. So that brings to another h'tשכ, which is coldness. Cold is the source of illness. Cold. The body becoming cold, the temperature dropping. So that's he arranges in this order. Once the Yetzer Hara becomes part of his Yiddishkeit, there's an ego agenda here, and it's not for the Eibishter. So then that's going to lead eventually to coldness in Kedusha, because in the beginning you can be excited about what he's doing, but the excitement wears off. Once the attention wears off, and the excitement wears off, and the novelty wears off, so he's cold. So that's the next step. Tzina, akrirus b'kedusha. What's chayli, says the Gemara, and this is from Bab Mitzvah, the body being cold. So He explained what it means. He himself, avoida, he lost that intense desire. He's missing it. He never had it. He needs the Yitzhak. If the Yitzhak is not going to agree to do something, and this is not going to be an ego game, he's not doing it. He'd be called to it. He'll do it, but he'll do it like as if without any chayas. He only has chayas when the ego is stroked, whatever level that is. Then the next level, another type in the Gemara. This is from Rishalmi. What's chayli? Is then nasa chayli zu sreifa. Chayli is fever, getting burnt out. Meaning the kiddush, that's the kedusha. Since he's not excited about Yiddishkeit because it's exciting to begin with, was agenda laden, was the Yiddishkeit. It was his becoming a mitzius. So his excitement's got to go somewhere. There's a whole literally area within him. There's a gaping hole. There's a vacuum, and there's no warmth in kedusha. So in the two Yaakov and Esav are pitted against each other. So it's going to be one way or another. The scale is going to go somewhere. The chemimus, the fire, has to go somewhere. A person's a passionate person on some level. So shenasim is chemimus, the eish zara the lamazet. So where's the warmth going to go? In foreign fires of the opposite of kedusha. In sinful things, in indulgent things. And then goes even lower. Ryan doesn't appear anywhere in the Teichacha. The Gemara mentions it in Yerushalmi, and it means as an idea. As the first explains that his mind's confused. The last thing is the mind is affected. And that's the opposite order of the way it is in Kedusha. Kedusha starts from Seichel, and then the Seichel moves the heart, and then behavior. But in Klippa, it starts with Taiva, and then ends with the mind, a confused mind. In other words, at least till now, his mind was in, the Ashkofa was in the right place, the mind was in the right place. He's caught up emotionally, sensually, but eventually not. Eventually it disturbs his peace of mind. The peace of mind, he doesn't spell it out. But first of all, he's not focused. If he's into tightness, so how can he be focused? Distracted all the time. Could even be worse that if it gets svekis, it gets doubts, it starts to question. So in the text, so it starts with the heart, and then it goes to the mind. So concluding, so it starts off with the Yitzhak, from the bottom up, the Shalkisis up, down. And the Shabbat starts from the base desires and then the brain. So from this foreign fire comes to the Mayach Shezachayli Zurayan, and this is this type of the Gemara Grishalmi, that sickness is what? The Rayan is the mind. That's like the mind is literally swimming. When the Meitzim and Nuchal Nafshi doesn't find rest. What is missing now is das. Das means conviction, connection, commitment, binding oneself to the truth with the mind. He's missing that. He's untethered, not anchored. As he says in Enter, I should see that. The Pirish Maimer HaZoyah, so the Zoyah says, it's on Seres HaDibros there. Kel Acher, another God, Ishtaris V'loi Ovid Pirim. Okay, I looked up the Zoyah, it doesn't say quite, doesn't mention the word Ishtaris, but L'chayr it means, it's a Soros, that's a eunuch, someone, V'loi Ovid Pirim, Peris, he doesn't produce fruit. Meaning, fruit are the midas. If in the mind there isn't the conviction, that's the Bainani. The Bainani is not in Chachma Bina. He understands everything. He knows the whole time. Bainani is in Das. It's internalizing, connecting to it, and the conviction that is missing. It doesn't produce, therefore, the fruits, which are the emotions and the behavior. It doesn't follow. So Mr. Shem look up Eter to get more detail. Shebeklipa yeshak pines hameichin chachma bina. Klipa and Kedusha matched. One, Zelu Mazeh, as I mentioned before. Loim beloim yemites. One nation struggles against the other, but they're not entirely matched. In Klipa, this chachma bina, which means in theory everything is good. What Klipa doesn't have is das. Which das means that you know what's right and you connect to it. Adam brings in Tanya, and man knew. Adam knew Chava, became one. That's what's missing, becoming one with what you know, one with the truth that you understand. Shasu in Achara is like there's two opinions in that. There's Achara, the final ruling. There's a final ruling. This is the way it is. Klippa doesn't have that. And that's what's happened to this person, to him, to us. That from the Chayli, it started, in the Taivas, it's in the head. So he doesn't have this Achara, this ability to probably word for Achara, not just a final decision, but a
commitment.
No, but it's in Seichel. Achara is in Seichel. It's 2 days and it's the Achara. Machriya. It's still in the world of Seichel. A decision, a conclusion, it's a word in a legal word. When you have 2 opinions and then you have the final ruling, is another word. The Achara, the final judgment, decision, yeah, all of that. And the rayonim b'sheitet etzeh, but the mind is flowing, swimming. When the moitzim menuch and nafshay doesn't even have peace of mind intellectually. Then the Gemara brings another opinion of the word chayli. What's sickness? The discussion is what's the ultimate sickness, the primary sickness that's the cause of everything else, or the central. Mora is the gallbladder, the bile. The bladder. So that causes the poisoning of the whole body. But the word mora means bitter, because it's bitter. Meaning he doesn't recognize, as the pasuk said, that externally she, the seductive woman, is neifes to fennel sifsezora. The lips drip foreign. It says honey, sweet talk. The pasuk concludes, but the end is, if you give in, it's bitter like gall, like wormwood, Some bitter. Lana's is a root, a bitter root. So he's feeling it, but here's it. He's in this bitter state. He doesn't extract himself. I looked it up over there. It brings this in, but doesn't bring this last point. Maybe I missed it. But that he's stuck. He's stuck in now this bitter state. And it all began with what? The Eitzara says, be a chosed, be everything. Just I'm part of this deal. And he welcomes the Eitzara because it makes him feel even better. Not only is he doing the mitzvah, he's getting the high, an ego trip on it. So sure, you're my partner. I'm speaking in language in what's what I'm looking for. I'm speaking in a bit facetiously. The Tzara is not somebody else. Tzara is our consciousness, but it's a part of us that we need to understand what it is. So the Cholz and Mishtal show, continuing now, all of this devolves from the very highest madregas. The highest madregas of sickness, if it's unrequited, as you said before, the Torah mitzvah and with tshuva. So the Cholz and Mishtal show, this all descends from the love sickness at the loftiest level. That he's missing the Sharanun. What is his avodah? What does it mean he's missing Sharan? His avodah is all intellectual. You're all hearing about it. Means seeing, means it's immediate. You're there. You're present. You're present, and Yiddishkeit is tangible and real. It's not. It's distant. And since, which means the absolute truth of Elikus, that convictions like das. When you have das, you see it. So he doesn't see it, hears about it, learns about it, but it's still foreign on some subtle levels. It's all very subtle. And this can then lead to all the levels of sickness, but Ruchnius we described before. And this is similar to the explanation and how the egel happened. They saw Likus, the people saw. They're no longer seeing it, they're recalling it. Hearing about it. And that caused Chet Egel and a rapid descent. The reason is the hearing isn't such a you heard about it, you understand it, but still we learned this yesterday. It's contradictions because you're only hearing about it. It's not reality. Beautiful, it's a nice idea, you accept it, you believe it, but. That's when the whole relationship, Yiddishkeit is hearing about it, learning about it. But the words that he's learning, that he's hearing, he's seeing it, that's avoided, that's das. When he sees it, she has to ask 100 kashas. I don't have an answer, but they're irrelevant. He sees it. When the avodah is just shmiyah, as a efshaliyas mized feel there can be a descent, and that's the Sharan Nun. The Sharan Nun is absolute clarity and division. A little further here. So this thirst, the cheles av, lovesick. It seems somewhat of a contradiction here because cheles av is a virtuous thing. It's a virtuous thing. It's mishtakik with someone la'etzem. And how do you start the previous paragraph? That from the cheles ava shechos li sharanun, he's missing that this whole thing descends. But l'chayre, if he has the longing, it's not going to happen. The pshat is that he's holding at the level that he's missing the sharanun. But if he would be cheles ava for it and pining and lovesick for it, then he will not fall, and you'll have some chuni bashishus, duni batapucher, avoid of Torah mitzvahs, avoid of tshuva. What I'm saying is that the first step, like we said, he says na yom, the first step in healing is to know you're sick and to want to be healed. So the cheles av is a good thing. We described before is the levels without knowing that he's sick, without the love, without the pining, without the longing. He's locked on these levels of ego, of lack of the ear. So if he's satisfied with it, then it is finished. Then he's sick and he just descends. But if it's the cheles ava, in that not that he's just sick objectively, but he's lovesick, then he's going to get out of it and connect to Sharan Nun and then Kabbalah soil and the mitzvahs and Shuvah and rectify it. So there's the sickness and there's the love sickness. The cheles ava, that's the eitzah. In other words, at least not to be satisfied with it, to know this where we're holding, and not to be, not to fool ourselves. And therefore, on some level, cheles ava, get me out of this. I want to be a true chassid. So in that desire, he will then find the connection as the Maamor guides us. Kabbalah Zohar, Iskashus, Torah Mitzvahs, Tshuva. So a little bit further. Beis Vav again. So the general love sickness, not the sick state, but the love sickness, is longing for the etzem. It's his conscious desire. He wants that the 50th level should illuminate his atik, see it, the absolute, not giloyim. Giloyim gives room for something else. The etzem is exclusive and absolute to the ear. That's what he's pining for. Not just understanding, which always leaves him separate. I understand. So where is this first manifest? Abish just made this part of the holy Stalshalos. We don't have to become something that's not inherently part of who we are. This longing is there. It all starts in Sfiras Malchus. And what's Malchus? Is Isha. The woman, which is Eish, hey. Eish is fire, and hey is Malchus. That's already the Helem, the Dibur, the speech, the creative force where the infinite God is concealed. The beginning is darkness. We didn't do this? Friends? Huh?
No.
No. Okay. Right. I was confused. The beginning is darkness. Behind all the fish, what's the letter Hey? The level. Sure. Yeah. Huh? Oh, as I said earlier in the mind, I say heaven, Surah. No. So I don't know. Good. So, okay. I'm dreaming it. Dream that we learned it. Good. So what's the Oisei? Oisei is finished heaven without Oisei, just the guttural breath on which the letters then fall. So it's the real Helen. A letter already has Teuchen. I could swear we did this. Huh? In a recent Maamor. It's just yesterday. Okay. Okay, we're going to just finish this quickly because we're joined. It's almost 6:30. So welcome, Ronnie. Good morning. So what is Hey? So Hey is the Hevel.
Good morning. Sorry.
Just bringing out that Malchus is the Hela because it's not articulated speech yet. So it's the Hevel of the raw guttural breath from which letters will form, and then the letters create words, and there's Teuchen, there's content. But in the Chaymer, not the Tzur, the Chaymer is the matter, and the Tzur is its form. The form is expresses content. The matter is just raw matter. So it's the real Helam, concealment, and therefore Dafka there is the real the longing, right? So Mitzvah Hashem will continue that. With Hashem on Monday.